You are listening to the Narco Picnic Podcast with your host, Joel Goralski.
Woo! Bienvenidos, everybody. Wow, the Narco Picnic Podcast. We've been offline for a while. I mean, doing videos on YouTube, but the whole podcast idea took a backseat because you know what happened, Elena?
What happened, Joel?
Life got in the way.
Okay.
Does not always happen.
It does happen, but then we make it happen. Look at that.
There you go.
Here we are.
Well, welcome, Elena Nevza.
Nevzorova.
Nevzorova.
Yes, but I shorten it for YouTube because, Nevzorova.
Nevzorova is just
a little too long.
Too hard for people.
Yeah.
NJ, can you give us your best Nevzorova? Oh, you said you'd leave if I was going to make you start to speak any form of Russian. NJ does. He's got a Russian accent. What is your leprechaun one?
A leprechaun one.
But it sounds more like a Rastafarian. But anyways, it's all good.
So you're the accent master. That's good. That's good. I can't do that. I can do Russian. Yeah. Russian is good. Russian is good. Yeah. I'm working on my Spanish Mexico one, but no.
Is it improving? But your first language is Russian.
My first language is Russian, English, and now Spanish. I understand a lot, but speaking is a bit of an issue. Yeah. I actually don't have an issue speaking, but it's like super basic level, no grammar, which I need to work on.
Like, are you understanding more though?
Oh, I understand, like 90%.
90% of what you're hearing.
Yeah.
And you've been here how many years?
4 years.
4 years.
January 27th, 2021.
And what made you do this?
Wow, this is going to be a long podcast, but I'm going to try and shorten it.
So we're not going to do like Joe Rogan 4.5 hours,
okay,
or maybe 5.
All right. No, we've got things to do. My mom came here on a holiday.
Yeah.
And the world was shutting down. 15 of her friends had planned to come with her.
Okay, 15.
15, yeah. They booked a house in Puerto Vallarta in 2020.
Okay.
And slowly, as the world was shutting down, the people started to kind of cancel.
Right.
So mother said, okay, well, I'm going.
You're going. She's going.
I'm going. Larissa Sokola's my mom, you know that, right?
And she has her own YouTube channel. Yeah. She's living a fabulous life.
She is, she's an adventurer, that one. So anyway, she said she's coming. We've always had a plan to come here and stay here for like 6 months of the year. Yeah. And one day when my mom was here, we're like, well, what are we waiting for? My kids were little. Yeah. So I didn't know what I'm going to do with school.
How old were they?
They were 3 and 5.
Okay.
And we just hopped in a plane, 2 weeks to pack our bags. We came, and that was that.
And that was it.
That was it.
And you never left.
No. Well, we came with a plan. So my husband had an opportunity that never kind of turned up, and we just decided that we'll stay here and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And so far so good.
And was that from Vancouver?
Vancouver, Canada. Yeah.
And what did you do there?
I was a real estate agent for like almost 9 years.
Right. That's a crazy market.
Oh, it was, and I was working at the best time or the worst time. Right. Depends on how you look at it, right? It was a lot of work, but it was like we were making sales fast. Like at some point, I was actually doing a live for some of my, not clients, but the coaching group that I have. And I was telling them that in the height of my market, the average days in the market was 2 days.
2 days.
For the property that was marketed properly and, priced right.
Right.
And they would go for over asking 8, 10, 13 offers. It was crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And what was wrong with that life? I mean, so you're in Vancouver, you're making sales, you're probably earning pretty good money. I guess living the dream. I mean, a lot of people from Canada would love to live in Vancouver, but it's freaking expensive.
Right.
But why would you just shift gears and come here?
So I was living the dream technically. But at the same time, I went back to work. I was a solopreneur, so I was running my business. And I went back to work 2 days after I had my first son. And I was showing homes in labor. And I just didn't know how could I get out of that, like, constant hamster wheel of just doing, right? Like, I always wanted more. So I started in self-development in, like, 2018, 19. And started to open up my mind, but like not to the point that I kind of was able to do here because life here is so much slower. So I think it's just the opportunity that came up and the changing culture. I could see it. I could see how, unfortunately, Canada was changing and not in the way that I wanted to be a part of. So between those two, like, kind of living the perfect life in theory, making lots of money, but not really having any time with my family or myself. and just the changing culture. That was like a perfect storm. So that was the kind of a pushing factor. It wasn't easy, but
Yeah, the shift happened pretty quick. I mean, once COVID hit, it's like whoever they are, like they accelerated it.
right.
Right, they accelerated that shift.
Because it was a great opportunity,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, we can put our tinfoil hats on, but in the end, yeah, I thought, ever since I kind of got into the self-development and started to kind of dabble in that world, and then at the same time looking at how financial system works, how money works, what are we actually being taught versus what the reality is, or actually what are we even being taught anything in school about that stuff, right? So I think it was a long time coming, and it's interesting,
So take me down the self-development world. So what did that look like for you?
So just really real estate really helped me with that, because I wanted to make more money and I wanted to do more business. And I was just like, oh, well, this isn't working. And that's not, the mindset game that we play with ourselves. And so I stumbled upon this coach. She's not even in business anymore, but she was amazing. She brought someone in who kind of combined the work of a few like Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins. And it was just a very simple 1 hour coaching call with her. And she was like, here's what you're going to do. You're going to change and shift your beliefs. You're going to think about things that you want to do rather than things that you don't want to do.
Right.
And that's what happens to us, right? Like we focus, I don't know, for whatever reason, on things that we don't want happening. We also have our mind so open to anything that we hear on the news, and we don't even question if that's the truth or not, right? And is it the ultimate truth for us? So there was a lot of going through, understanding what an ultimate truth is, and shifting the beliefs. And the exercise was very simple. It's basically you would just put down what you want, and then you'd find 10 pieces of evidence of that's already working in your life. So as an example, when I was selling real estate, you had to get clients, you had to bring in business. And so I would always think, well, open houses don't work for me. And then I shifted that, and literally like magic, it was 30 days, and you'd read those shifted beliefs, right? I literally started getting clients from open houses.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. It was crazy, and it was not more than 30 days. So then I thought, well, this is interesting. I'm going to try it with other stuff. So I started kind of, doing all these weird, not weird, but thoughts that I would never be like, oh, I can't do that. Well, why not? Why can't I make this much money? I'll tell you a crazy story. When about 6 months before we moved here, 6 months before all the craziness happened.
And so this was 2019.
This was 2020.
Oh, okay.
So this would have been 2000. This was a year or so into my self-development journey.
Got it.
I decided that I'm going to do a vision board, which was not something that I would ever have done before I started going down this rabbit hole. Anyway, so I did the vision board, and I put on a very specific number of how much money I wanted to have in my account. 6 months later, I had that amount. It was crazy. And it wasn't a small amount. It was down to a penny.
Really?
100%. Not word of a lie. It's exactly what happened. I have the the little pictures in my envelope, and so that just propelled me to really get into that kind of not work, but self-development more and more and more, right? And it's not always, sometimes we forget, sometimes we get busy, but I'm back into it right now full force, and I know it works.
And so 4 years later, what are you doing here? I know you have a YouTube channel, which I more people should be watching your channel. So
thank you.
If you're watching this right now, please go online, and I'm going to put the link below, but subscribe to your channel because you do a great job.
Thank you.
Showing, I think, pretty unbiased views on various real estate and investment opportunities in the area. And I definitely enjoy watching it, but
thank you.
I think the channel should grow.
I thank you very much. So yes, I do have the YouTube channel. That was one of the things that I wanted to start. So 2 years before we moved, I wanted to get into YouTube. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I just couldn't find the time when I was doing real estate back in Vancouver. So when we came here, I decided that I will start the YouTube channel. I'm not going to go into real estate. My husband was saying, "Oh, just go and sell real estate," and I said, "No, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I want to get out of. Not that I love real estate. It had to be something to do with real estate, but I wasn't going to sell real estate again." Which quite the opposite of what most people kind of do when they come here. But anyway,
they become realtors.
Exactly. They have a career back home, and then they come here and they become realtors. But anyways, that's I decided to really give my all to YouTube, and I didn't really know what I'm going to do. I actually thought, well, I did know. I thought what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with developers and kind of do like sponsorships, right? So that they'd sponsor my videos, and I would promote the developments. And then after like the first or second video that I did, people started to reach out to me. Like, and I don't think I put my email in the description. I really had no idea what I was doing. And so they were asking me questions, and I thought, well, this is good. I mean, I can like connect with a few realtors, and I can start, sending the business. Anyways, it all kind of led me down the rabbit hole of digital marketing and coaching, and so that is the business that I'm growing.
Okay.
And then I also have the realtor referral business, which is, I work with 3 realtors who I refer business to, and we're kind of partners. Like I don't show properties or do any of that, but I help people figure out like an ROI potential and, give them my opinion and then help along the way. Like if they need to, connections, referrals to cleaning people, all that kind of stuff.
So you help mentor them through the process, and then the realtor kind of does a little bit more of the heavy lifting with the showings, which I was a realtor for years.
Okay.
I owned a brokerage in Calgary, a Remax brokerage with, I think at the height I was like 150 agents.
Oh, wow. That is a big brokerage.
But it was like what you said, it was the hamster wheel, right? Eventually I sold it because I left a corporate job, and then I became a realtor, which I really liked, but then I bought a brokerage, and then I felt like I was back in a corporate job again, so I kind of got out of that. But
and then you started developing.
So Jillian and I started doing some small projects in Calgary. It was kind of a mom and pa kind of business. We did a couple houses a year. It was called Nicholas Homes after Nicholas Jack here. And then Nicholas Homes became Nicholas Group as we grew into bigger projects. And then, fast forward to 2009, the global financial crisis. We built our biggest project. Managed not to go bankrupt, which was great, but lost a whole bunch of money, like a lot of people did in that time, especially in Calgary. It was brutal. And that was kind of what set the stage for coming here. By the time we kind of got out of that project, it was 2013, and we're like, that project just took 4 years of our life. We not only made no money, we lost a whole bunch, and it was a pretty big number, in the 7 digits, right? So it was awakening. It was an awakening moment that said, look, like our kids are growing up in front of us, and life is like kind of just like passing us. We used to travel, spend a lot of time as a family, but the work hamster wheel, right? Like it just
nonstop.
We had to get away from that. So we thought, let's just take 1 year and just let go of everything. So we sold it all, like sold our house, sold our cars, and we moved down here literally with 1 suitcase each and a tote. That was it.
Wow.
And then a year went by, and we're like, we can't go back yet, right? And then 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.
Okay, and when did you start to kind of believe that you're going to be here for a while, if that's even the case? But I'm assuming it is.
I think probably by year 3.
Yeah.
That was it. We're like, I started BC Bucerias. It was just more a hobby business, but it became like a real business that was actually earning us income. And then we're like, we got a pretty good thing here. We would work all winter really hard, and then we would go travel in the summers with the kids. We had a camper and RV, travel all over the U.S. and spent some really good time together. So that was cool. So I think by year 3 we were all in. How about you? Yeah. Are you all in now? Or are you still?
I'm all in, but I'm all in part time.
Yeah.
What you just said.
But are you all in to not going back to Canada?
Oh,
like
no,
Mexico's your home.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm just not sure. The heat is really getting to me in the summers because we were here for the first 3 years, and last summer we traveled. So what you said about like going all in, working for the 6 months, and you guys were first here and then traveling, that's kind of the plan for us right now. But we're all in on Mexico, 100%. Yeah,
we're trying to get to that. So I got the bike business for sale, and I think I found someone who's going to buy it, so that's great.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was hoping NJ was going to take it over, but he has other aspirations, which is cool. And I think Jillian and I are just at the time in our lives, 11 years later, we're ready for a change, and we give that business all we can, and maybe don't have the same passion. Right. And if you're doing coaching or just even thinking about betterment, like once you kind of lose that passionate edge, it's time to move on, right? So I think we found someone who now he has the passion and he's ready to like pick it up where we brought it, and I think can take it to that next level. So I think we'll find out by the end of the year if that's done. And then, at the end of this interview, we'll go to Vista Victoria. That's my last condo project.
Okay.
And I only got 2 units left there, so the idea is just sell those. And I think we're
done
development.
Are you really?
If we're going to do it, it's going to be for our investment fund, and we'll just build cash flow. But I'm done with customers. And thank you for doing that video, by the way, because it was kind of funny. I was planning on reaching out to you, and then this fucking video came out, that these people put this hit piece on me. And I'm like, oh my God, like everyone's going to see this. And I was planning to reach out to you about just some ideas I had about us collaborating. I'm like, Elena's going to see that video. Like, I'm going to be the last person she wants to collaborate with. And I didn't reach out. Right. And then you did that video just on your own experience of buying a condo. And I don't know, like if you saw the video and that maybe helped kind of propel you into doing that video, but it kind of came at an opportune time where I'm like, at least some people kind of get what developers go through. Like, number one, being a developer in Canada is not easy. Being a developer in any country is not easy. It's a lot of work and effort. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of reward if it goes your way, but there's a lot of stress, and people can be the stress.
Right.
But some people just don't understand what we have to put into this, and sometimes it doesn't go as planned, but we do our best to make it as good as we can do. And it seemed like you took the right approach on your purchases here. So tell me a little more about that.
Thank you. Well, before I say that, let me grab my water here. Before I say that, I did make a video because I did see your video, and it was very funny because I have not the video, but how it came about. I have a email list of people who are interested in buying here, or my experience and what have you. And so I've sent out an email that I usually send out once a week or once every 2 weeks, and the first person replying to me, did you see this video that was done about Bucerias Joel? What are your thoughts on it? And then there was a few more, and I thought, okay, well, I've replied to that person. And I guess it's, that's the YouTube and that's the interest, right? Because things like that, they always pique people's interest. And, as YouTubers, we know, like, you need to put certain thumbnails on, and you need to get that attention of people, because that's what the business of YouTube is, essentially, right? So I thought, okay, well, this video came out. I have my opinions about it. I have my opinions about, how people sometimes take certain things. So I'm going to do this video. So I actually did the video because I did see the video that was shared with me by one of my email subscribers. Yeah. So, and honestly, I think that developers are some of the hardest working people out there. And that is because I've done a lot of research into it, because I was going to become one, and then I decided not to.
Don't do it.
Oh, absolutely. I would never, would never do it. And I think that, what happens often is, and, it's happens to all of us, and I'm one of those people. I try not to do that anymore, and I try to really work on my mind. When something doesn't go right, people try to blame the other person, right? And the reality is, that's why I made the video, is that it's not anyone else's fault, ever. What we do as adults, right, as long as we're adults, not babies, we make our choices, right? And to make informed choices is very, very important. And that's part of the reason why I do all my videos, because when we were purchasing a property here, so to kind of answer your question now, I was a real estate agent back home, right? So I knew quite a bit. But when I got here, it was like a whole new world, and you know that, obviously. And so I started to ask questions, and I've made a lot of mistakes, even though I was asking the questions, right? And that is why I share so much information in my paid community. It's like super, hello.
We got a kitty cat.
Hi.
Hey, Marcella, are you coming in for the interview here?
Yes, hi.
She's
Cats usually don't like me.
No?
No.
Well, she's kind of a lovey cat, but
well, she just wants the coaster.
Yeah. Well, are you allergic or anything?
No.
Okay.
No, I love animals.
Okay. Well, she can participate then.
Okay. Sounds good. So, Yeah, the process was super different. Not being able to speak the language. Like my husband speaks Spanish fluently, but nonetheless, like I know.
Where's his background? Is he?
He's Canadian. He was born in Calgary, actually,
Okay.
and then he lived. So his parents were from Argentina and Chile.
Oh, okay.
And so he lived in Argentina for 7 years.
That'll do it.
That
So he's
well.
got the Argentinian accent.
That well, yes.
Yeah.
That he tries to hide because he thinks Mexicans don't like it.
That's funny. Argentinians love their accent.
Oh, they love them. They love their accents.
Yeah.
They love their culture,
Yeah.
and they think, which is, kind of truth. They're the best in soccer, right? So anyway, so he spoke Spanish, but not, to the level that I'd want to understand the contract and I'd want to know what's going on.
Right.
So anyways, long story short, we were overall very lucky with our purchases. The condo that we bought, so we own 2 houses and a condo, and I should have bought 3 condos, no houses, but anyways, now live and learn, right?
And learn.
So the condo, oh my gosh, there's so much drama, and if you watched my video,
Yes,
you know.
I watched it.
But the reality of it was that people just, I don't know how to say it properly. People just like drama sometimes, right? And you kind of need to remove yourself from it. And honestly, like, I am so grateful for the fact that we never had a leak, we never had a problem with our condo,
Right.
while like half the building has issues with their dryers and issues with this and issues with that. And I also, you're going to call me a crazy woo lady, but I also believe it's because we just, like, I just know nothing bad's going to happen.
Right, you
Like,
manifested it.
Exactly. It's a beautiful condo. We have an amazing ROI on it. It cost us $205,000. Like, where else can you buy a condo 2 blocks away from the beach for $205,000?
That's in Vallarta.
In Vallarta, yeah. And like, it's appreciated. It's all the things. So while there were some issues, I realized that first of all, they weren't developers' problems. Like, things happen. I sold real estate in Vancouver. I know developers all over the world. Well, you can't take care of absolutely everything, right? And that's just the reality of it.
We do our best.
Absolutely, 100%. But at some point, it's like, okay, well, where does it end?
Yeah.
And the reality of buying a pre-construction, you're gonna have growing pains. And if you don't want growing pains, don't buy pre-sale.
Yeah, it's you kind of hit it on the nail on the head. In the end, I mean, this is going to be a distant memory, I think, by next year. It seems like we're already kind of getting through it. The video is no longer on YouTube, which is good.
Oh, that's good.
Which is a first step. But I think you're right. Like, it's not even seeing the glass half empty or half full. It was like they're seeing the glass 90% empty when it was 90% full. Like, I was just kind of running some basic numbers. I mean, the average ROI for my early purchasers is around 90% on appreciation.
Amazing.
Right? So it's, and like the real estate that we've retained, which is all the commercial, I'm happy. Like, I mean, so that's gone up in value. We've got a pharmacy that's doing a 15-year lease.
Good for you guys.
So that's, I think they're going to be open hopefully in January. They're all done. They just don't have their final operating permit. And then we have a restaurant space to lease, but eventually that place is going to be leased out, and that is our income. It's, coming in.
And I remember the prices you were selling those units for, and I think that was why we actually kind of connected, because I did the video on it because I thought it was incredible. I like, we were interested in purchasing a unit. The only reason we decided otherwise is because we bought a house instead. We should have bought a condo, but anyways. And I remember the price points. Like, it was incredible. This would have been, what, 3 years ago?
Well, the first studio we sold for $60,000.
I think it was 54.
Maybe.
I remember that.
Okay.
I can find a video.
Okay. It could have been, but it was, but that was back when the east side of Bucerias was still, people thought it was like sketchy. This was an old RV park. There wasn't really anything going on. And that's the other thing about, like, as a developer with like vision, like, I've been in this business for many years. So I kind of envisioned what was going to happen in this area anyways, as we still had to have a price point, but, I got the land for a price that, I could never get that today. I mean, literally, if I would have just held the land and not done anything, I'd be much happier right now. We would have made less money,
right?
But there would have been no work. It would have just been appreciation of the land, right? But, we all, early purchasers, they need to understand that there is some risk, but there's also that
huge reward.
Now, had we not pre-sold everything, which in hindsight we shouldn't have, but I'm kind of at a stage in my life where I'm a little older and I want less risk. So I was willing to take less profit to just have more certainty. But had we put our own capital into it, which we could have, we'd be way better. Like we would have literally doubled the amount of money that we made. Right. But that's a win. Like,
well,
I'm okay with it.
Right?
I'm okay with it. Like,
yeah.
But that's where it was like heart-sucking to us. Is like, I'm not going to say no one. Actually, a large percentage of the owners there get it. But we just there was they couldn't see any beauty in what we were actually able to create. And just get through which I thought the problems which were not that problematic in my mind. But.
Well, honestly, I don't know what the problems were because I didn't watch the entire video.
It'll be like you know what, this will be like, you know, maybe in a couple of years I'll share the entire story, but there was nothing that we really couldn't overcome. Like it just was a lot of false information and defamation, really, like by a couple core people that just dragged everyone else in because it was just easier that way.
I understand this because we've gone through that exact situation. I mean, I wasn't in your shoes. I was part of the owners, and my choice was either go with the core 2 or 3 people that were doing exact same thing. And so I think that's just, I guess, the risk that you take, unfortunately, and as a developer, right? And I totally get it. Like, if you're someone who puts your heart and soul into it, this is hurtful, right? Like if someone who isn't an honest person wouldn't care at all to even, think twice about it. They just would
we'd be gone.
Exactly, right? And I think that the good in it all is when I watched a part of the video, I thought, okay, well, I always read the comments, right? Right. And I thought there was so many supportive, amazing comments. Yeah. And I also think that, you kind of got the rough end of the stick because you are a public person here in Bucerias, right? So everybody watches your channel and now the podcast, what have you. So I think being in public eyes, there's always that fear. And a lot of people have that fear, like, well, what if people don't like me? Well, the reality is, who cares if they don't like you? Yeah. It's different, though, if it affects your business. And that's where I guess, you have to, the way that I see it, you'd have to put in that energy to go and tell your side of the story, right? Essentially. So
that's what we've pretty well decided to, I think it's going to conclude. Like I feel like the majority of anyone who was unhappy, maybe they'll never be happy. That's okay. But I think we'll have a resolution and we're just going to focus on doing what we're doing, which I thank you for coming to do the podcast because talk about like the business being affected. Like, William Taudine was in town and literally, someone at Cuatro Estaciones started like yelling at him.
Oh my goodness.
Crazy lady.
Oh, he was staying at
he was there, going to be there for a month promoting the property, which was for the benefit of everybody, right? Right. And basically the next morning he just packed his bags and he left for another part of Mexico. I think he was struggling with being here anyways, but that kind of like accelerated his movement out and ended a really cool collaboration that him and I had planned. So I look at a hit piece like that, I'm like, man, people are so focused on just me, but you're forgetting about everyone else in the community, right? Like, what about William? Like, he came here to work with me, and now he's left, and he probably lost a lot of money by leaving prematurely and not executing on our plan. And I can give like 100 other examples of people who are affected negatively by that. And it's, I think, something all of us got to think about because with social media right now, it's so easy to get sucked in to the negativity, and YouTube doesn't care. They just they actually kind of maybe thrive on the disagreement. Well, they want the views, right? So that's like the algorithm. And we know, like I've mentioned that earlier, we know that the thumbnails with a certain picture or what have you, titles, like all that plays into how video will perform. And that's what YouTube cares about, right? But I think that in the end of it all, there's a lesson, right? I think there's always a lesson in it. And honestly, in my view, this is just my opinion,
like you and your community will come out stronger in the end because a lot more people are now aware.
Right.
And remember one thing, right? This is what I always think about. We only read the comments that people put there, right?
Right.
There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people out there who don't ever comment. Like I watch many videos and I never comment.
Right.
And the energy of those people and now the awareness, even though it may not came from the best video, best source, like maybe came from negativity, but I think in the end, it will still be it will still create a positive impact. Like for example, I didn't know how much work you do in the community. Like I watch your videos, obviously, but I had no idea what you guys do. So now I'm a lot more inclined to, work with you and be able to help and support the communities here in this part of Mexico, right? So I think there's always like the good and the bad, right? And the good always wins.
Well, and that's the approach that we're taking. I just wanted to thank you, right? Because I have had cancellations, right? Like
You've had cancellations.
like people who are supposed to be on the podcast or supposed to do some collaboration. Some other YouTubers with over 100,000 followers, and they're like, like I don't want to take sides, and I just don't want to be in the controversy. And I get it, right? But I appreciate that you don't give a shit.
I
and that's the Russian.
don't.
I think that's the Russian in you for sure.
You know what it is? I just never. I always have this in the back of my head that I never take sides.
Right.
I don't take Joel's side or the side of the people who made the video. I take a side of free market capitalism.
Right.
I take a side of someone who's gone out to basically put their time and effort and so much work and take so much risk, right, to create something. And I appreciate that. Like, I think that free market capitalism is the one thing that we all should be striving towards. And of course there's going to be things. Of course people are going to come up and say things and do whatever. But in the end, to me, that is that's the side I'm taking. I'm not taking your side or their side. I'm taking the side of someone who I know works very, very hard, and that's just that entrepreneur, right? That does everything that they can to better the life of their family, and by that they better the life of the community they're in, and so on and so forth.
Hallelujah. Appreciate that. Anyways, thank you very much for coming to meet with me today and chatting. But so let's go back to one of your last videos. You bought a house with crypto, and I've gone through I've watched about a third of the video so far because every time I get to a certain point, I get interrupted. So I'm a third of the way through it, and I promise I'm going to finish it. But maybe you can take me through that video a little bit. And I'm okay with being, you can spoil, there could be a spoiler.
Well, there has to, okay, so this is so funny. And so this was a video that I kind of thought up because I really love the house.
Right.
And I thought, well, how can I spin it and really, see, I'm into marketing. I enjoy marketing. Right. I didn't buy the house. This is
you didn't buy the house?
No.
Okay.
It was all a marketing plot.
Oh, okay.
And my kind of a way to help my friend Christina, who's a real estate agent, promote the property.
Okay, so it is for sale.
It is for sale.
Okay.
It is. It was listed at 1.5 million about a year and a half ago. It's now down to 850.
Okay.
And if you watch until almost the end, I push her in a pool because the whole script was I pretend it's my house.
Okay.
And then she comes out and she says, well, Elena, are you ready for the video, the marketing video?
Yeah.
And that's when I push her in a pool and I run.
Oh, that's funny.
So there you go. I didn't buy the house
So it's
Bitcoin.
a spoiler alert. I'm like, geez, she bought a house with Bitcoin.
I could have.
Yeah.
I do own crypto.
Do you own Bitcoin?
And the reason I put that the into title because that day Bitcoin hit 100,000.
Right.
So that was the kind of reasoning behind it. I don't think it really helped the search, but yeah.
I mean, it kind of I gravitated towards that one because I was kind of interested to see how this thing's gonna unfold. The house, it was pretty cool though.
It's very cool. Yeah, it's a cool house. Needs a lot of work, but it's very neat.
So it's a renovation.
Yeah, it's a renovation project.
Excuse me.
And I think there's definitely interest in it because it's a really good price for the size of the lot and the size of the house. It's got very good bones, so you don't need to demolish it. You can really make it into something very special.
There's a lot. That's what I'm interested in the east side here. Well, I mean, there's a mixed bag of tricks, but there's like stuff you just got to tear down.
You're talking about this side.
Yeah,
right?
I love this side, and we've been fortunate. We did a renovation for a friend of mine, Phil Guyman, who's a retired pro cyclist, and he bought one of our renovated projects. It was a house, and we turned it into 2 two bedroom, 2 baths, and 2 studios. Like, it was massive, but it had like the most amazing bones. Like, so it didn't take a lot of work or effort to get it to where it is. But there's so many more of these places kind of kicking around here. Now they're getting harder to find, and people on the east side, well, they Mexicans really understand their value of their real estate. Like,
Right.
They know what their real estate's worth, and sometimes they'll wait to get to that number, even if it takes 2 years. You know, they'll just wait, right?
Yeah.
Because there's like money in the bank.
Yeah.
So it's getting a little tougher to find at a price where you can maybe flip it. But for someone looking to buy like a family home and not be on the west side, which is crazy, I think
It's so busy.
it's so busy, and there's too many towers.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're gonna have a single family home, I mean, maybe for someone, but not like, that's why we've moved here.
Right.
And much happier. But I think for younger families, like in your demographic that are moving here, that are looking for a single family home, I think the east side is great. And to find like a home with good bones, and maybe in Nueva Vallarta too, you have some of those older houses built in like the 1990s or whenever they started there.
Yes.
They're maybe like a little dated, you know, not shag rug, but kind of like that idea. You just got to kind of like rip it apart, but you can just
use it. Yeah, you know, it's super interesting that you really like the site. I know you really like the site. We decided to stick to Nuevo, and it's hard to find something there at a decent price that you can actually renovate. That's why we're thinking of building.
right.
I don't know if I think we will our own property, but for like, even for this house, I mean, it's gorgeous, and I think the reno wouldn't be super expensive,
Right.
but $850 as a starter price, right? Like, and I don't think they're going down much lower than that.
You're going to be in like 1.2 and
Exactly, right? And that's, I mean, it's lovely, but in my view, I just think it's a little bit too much for, you know.
That's a lot of house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a lot of house, and I really enjoy this.
Yeah.
I think I like different options, and like, my mom's here, right? So we'd want to kind of be together, but kind of not be together. So, yeah, but I think Bucerias definitely has a lot more opportunities for that, and so.
We got these like little lots, right? Like,
And they're good deals.
yeah, and they're like, so I have a couple from Calgary, so they bought a lot for me, and they're going to be building a house with, well, we're helping, but like one of my contractors that I've been dealing with for years, Baldo, he's going to be the one building it. Basically, they are building this house, like, but just one level.
Right.
So they're going to have their living room, kitchen, dining on one side, kind of like a little covered area like this, a pool, and then their 2 bedrooms in the back with 2 baths, and it's
Perfect.
with the ability to build on the roof in the
If they want
future
to.
if they want to, right? They could add some rental units, and we've kind of designed it so that access can be from the street, so that eventually if they build rental units, the
could
tenants
just
just
go
go
straight
straight
up.
up there and they won't even see them.
So do you do your own designs?
Yeah, like this is just, I take 8.5 by 11 paper and I just
Draw it out.
sketch it out with a ruler.
And then, so tell me a little bit about the process here. Like, how long does it take for permits and all that kind of stuff? For if you want to build your own home, like not a development.
Like something like this, if you're building within the guidelines, 3 months.
Oh, okay,
You can have
that's
your
pretty
permit. But you need to have some people know their way around.
Yeah.
Kind of like the community or the municipality. And but if you're going outside the guidelines, and there's a lot more negotiation, and there's usually you have to do like a study and
Right.
this, that, and the other thing.
Okay. But
There's ways, right? I don't want to talk about those ways because then people always like misinterpret it. But like it's all, like Mexico's all about like relationships.
Absolutely.
And you can get things done
Yeah.
here, but you have to have the right relationships, and you have to go through the processes, which are all legitimate legal processes, right? So all these towers that are extended their floors, like they would have had to like do a study,
right.
okay, and you know. That's it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a lot more complicated than that, but
For sure.
you know, you're hiring someone to basically get you that permit. As a developer, you're not involved in that process. Like you're just like, you hire a consultant who just works with the municipality, and they basically negotiate and get what you want so
Right.
that you can make the profit. We've always been pretty conscientious of the community, so like we don't have towers. Like Cuatro Estaciones is 3 stories. this one is 3 stories of residential, but so we went up to 4, but the first story is parking, and then we added a little commercial. So we're kind of conscientious of like building stuff that fits in the community.
Right.
Like this is 4 stories, but when you pulled up, did it look out of place?
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
No, it looked good. And I like that what you do is you usually try and bring in a business, right? Like you try and put in a business in there, so then it doesn't just, you don't just have housing, but you also have ability for people to make money, right? And then also services for people who are going to be living there, which is super important.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of developers are doing that. Like even on that side, there's the mixed use component. I just wish they wouldn't have went so tall.
Well, it's not a lot of land there, right? Yeah. So they kind of have to maximize their returns.
Yeah, there's just it's just changed the dynamic, right? Like so, I hope on the west or the east side here, I don't think they're going to let these things go beyond 4 stories for now.
And that's what it is, kind of the max at the point. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So you mentioned that you have a few people that are coming out this way and that you're helping them with developing their homes. Is that something you might be doing like down the line?
Yeah, I think I'll
call
okay,
you.
Yeah. So like I'm going to stay involved, but I like for friends, family, and like good customers.
Right.
And as long as it's like something that we like, they're building this house. Basically. So I'm like, yeah, we can do that with our eyes closed, so they're not doing anything overly custom. Like they just like our product.
Right.
So that's what we might continue to do, 1 a year, 2 years kind of thing. Like that I could be away for a few months and nothing, like Rome's not going to burn down, right? Like with a big project like Quattro, you're kind of stuck here to the end, right? Like it's a lot more life sucking. So yeah, like we will work with people on little projects like this, provided they are, willing to like work with our builder, like the people we trust and that kind of thing, because then we know we're going to have not many headaches. And then, my idea was I have like a land investment fund, and we were going to really try to relaunch that this year, but that hit piece video really kind of took the wind out of the sails, right? Because now people's like, oh, the guy's a fraud and he's like Ponzi scheming, and I know we can overcome that, but that's probably going to take like at least a good year to just rebrand and get people excited about the opportunities here. But as we start buying more land in the area, we will construct, but it's just going to be for the fund.
Right. So tell me a bit more about the fund. I did see a little bit of information about it, but I'm very curious.
So, the fund is basically based on what I used to do in Alberta, but focusing more on the land banking aspect. So we used to bank land in Alberta, but then when we would then be the customer for that bank, that bank land. So we would bank the land through like a limited partnership, and then my development company would buy the land from that limited partnership or do a JV with that partnership. Then we'd build the project, and then we would resell to customers. What I see happening in Mexico is kind of Mexico in general is kind of where the United States was in the 1950s, post-war. There's this like huge growing middle class. There's an untapped liquidity event, and that's like Mexicans own their property. A lot of Mexicans own their real estate, but they haven't seen liquidity from it yet, right? So we've all got wealthy in Canada and the States because of cheap money, really.
Right. Exactly.
Some intelligence, yes, like, we have to have some smarts to like take advantage of that.
Right.
But generally speaking, people are wealthy in Canada and the United States because of 0% mortgages, basically.
For sure.
Okay? Mexico's a little different. You have all these landowners here. So here in the Bay and the Valley area, we have all this land that goes into the valley, but a lot of it is in the city limits. So you have all these ranchers or sons and cousins and whatnot of ranchers who this land has been, over the generations, been willed down. And now they have all these fractions of hectares of land, like literally like behind Mega, for example. And, these people are collectively sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars worth of land. Now, eventually that land is going to become in demand from bigger developers going to want to do tract housing and multifamily developments, commercial, master development plans, kind of things, and codos, right? the problem that most of the owners have is they don't have a lot of money. So they have a big net worth. Like, so on paper, they're millionaires. And collectively, it's literally it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars collectively, them as a group. But they don't have the money nor the capital to do anything, right? So, and they don't necessarily want to sell the land now because they see the value of that land 10 years from now. Okay, like, a lot of that land could like really accelerate in value once the demand for housing really hits the market, which I think throughout Mexico it's just going to happen, because as that middle class grows and as people from bigger cities are looking to relocate to places like the ocean, like just like people move to California, right? And
For sure.
Like in the 50s, like
agree.
the same thing's going to happen here, and it's not like a 1 or 3 year event. This is like 100 years. Like, I'm planning out like 100, but the next 7 to 20 years could be like the craziest boom we're going to see in Mexico, and places like by the ocean where we are right now are really going to reap the benefits of that. So the idea for the fund is like pretty simple. Is like we have a balance fund, so we have certain things that are generating cash flow. It's like, so let's say 50% of our assets are basically just cash flow generating. So retail, commercial, vacation rentals, long-term rentals, whatever. Money's just coming in, and money is being spun out to investors on a quarterly basis. And then the rest of the fund is basically targeting land and assembling it, right? So you buy 5 hectares here, another 10 hectares there, and you kind of like connect it all together and you parcel it. So we used to do this in Calgary. We would assemble land. Once you have an assembly, you have a lot more negotiating power with the government to create like a master zoning change, because if you have 50 hectares of land, you can say, okay, well, here's our plan. You know, we want to do zoning for like 9 stories here, and then 7 stories here, and then 5 stories here, and then townhomes over here, and commercial over here, and then single family over there. And then, 5 years later, and it'll probably take that long to get all that zoning approved. It's done. Well, you've just like tripled the value
For sure.
of the real estate without even having the value increase just by virtue of the land increasing in value.
Well, you put in all that work because, you make it sound easy, but I know that it's not an easy
it is not
process.
easy, but it's more time. It's like watching grass grow, right? So as a developer, we buy the land and then we break ground, and you're attached to that project. Like, there's work going on there every single day, right? You can't leave. Right. Now, when you assemble land, obviously as being part of that, like my concepts are coming full force, but I have a team. We'd have a team of like lawyers and consultants and that are basically working on the master plan and then negotiating with the municipality, et cetera, et cetera. We'd be focusing more on, what can we turn that into? Right. And how do we get those approvals? And how do we like maximize the return? So our objective for that is to just say, look, like, Mexico's going to go through like a big boom. Doesn't matter, like Mazatlan, like, pick a place on the map, and if it's near the ocean, just like invest in, like, even if you bought a piece of land, that's all you're going to do. Just forget about it for 15 or 20 years. Yeah. Like for NJ, like if they invested $200,000 today, like in 25 years from now, it's probably going to be like 1.5 million, maybe 2 million.
Oh, for sure.
Like it's just going to happen. But collectively with a fund, we have way more capital now to go to these guys and say, look, okay, your land is worth 3 million. Here's $1.5 million. Okay, so we're going to put in 1.5, and you're going to roll in 1.5 into the fund. Okay, they love this idea because they're like, oh, okay, I can get some liquidity. I can go to Disneyland with my kids. I can put my kid through like university in the United States if that's where they want to send them. Like, it's changing their life like dramatically. Going from zero in the bank to 30 million pesos in the bank overnight is a big change. For sure. But now they can be involved for the long run, which they know, like, they know what their land's worth. Like, this is a win-win. So you mean I can get half the money now and I can stay in for the other half for the long run.
Well, that's exactly a win-win is the best way to describe it.
So that is, but we have to raise the money. Right. Without the money, like, we've already personally committed around 2 million to it, but in some cash, but mostly our cash flowing assets. So we're saying, okay, well, we already have these cash flowing assets. We're willing to put it into the fund and get less cash flow because now we got to share it with everybody. But I want to have a piece of that land.
Right.
Right. So my problem is, okay, well, I have to sell all my cash flowing assets or half of it to now invest in land that I'm interested in. No, why don't I just like put it into a fund and I still going to get some cash flow, but now I can invest in this land over here. Right. And now that guy can get some cash, but he can be invested not only in his land, but he's also invested now
with
the cash flowing assets.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, as the fund grows over time, we can also identify pieces of land within our portfolio and say, you know what, there's a huge demand right now for single family rental homes long term. Like there's a waiting list.
Right.
And we're going to take this track, it's already approved, and we're just going to bang them out. Get them rented. Done. You know, but now we're not chasing the market. Like we're not, oh shit, we got to find land to like build single family housing for renters. Like we can actually, there's renters waiting. We can like get these things built in a year. And now we're not chasing the market. Because a lot of times when developers chase, they chase and then the market tops and you write it down.
And yeah. That's very smart because I feel like that's what's kind of happening right now with a lot of developments with like the high rises in all over, right? Like Fluvial, you look at it, you'll see it. So I kind of feel like, I don't know, we'll see what will happen, but that is a perfect way to put it, I guess, right? That
we're going to stall here.
Yeah.
And then I think there's going to be opportunity to pick up some distressed assets. So that's the other part of the fund could pick up some of those distressed assets, maybe a 3/4 complete building,
right?
That kind of thing.
Which was happening here a while back, right? Like what would be?
It happened in 08, 09.
Yeah.
It'll happen again. It happens.
Of course, it's a cycle, right?
It's a cycle. And we're at the top end of a secular bull market. In the stock market, like there's a lot. The shit still hasn't hit the fan. The shit hasn't hit the van yet. It's only kind of like periodically hit, and then the federal banks just like pump money into the markets and like just bail us out. There's going to come a time when they can't bail us out, and that's where if those of us are kind of positioned with money on the sidelines, we can make some pretty good investments.
What does your crystal ball say about the timing on that? Like, when do you think it's going to really hit the fan?
I think sometime by the end of 2025 into 2026.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think that's soon? I think it's going to be a little bit later, but I don't know. Not to get political, but I think, and I have no feelings one way or the other. Like I don't like politicians, period. But I think with Trump coming in, there will be some shifts that will help U.S. go a little bit further.
Yeah, no, I think we'll hit, but when I say that, I think we might hit a topping point.
Oh,
and,
I got
gotcha. And it's not like all the cards are pulled out from the house of cards like immediately. Right. I think there's going to be kind of like a topping, and we're going to go into a long-term secular bear market.
Right.
That could last 20 or 30 or 40 years.
Well,
but we won't be crashing during the Trump presidency, I doubt.
Yeah.
They won't let it happen. But they might not be able to stop the inevitably. They can't stop the inevitable.
They can't stop it, exactly. Yeah. There's no way they can. That's what they continue to try and do is to just kick the ball down the road, right? But it's just eventually it will happen, and that's where you do want to be invested. And without getting like into details like that, because we know on YouTube it's very hard to get into that. You'll never get any views, but. That's what I try to do with the community that I've created is just kind of, get into the like diversification. And most of people that I work with, I'm sure it's the same for you, it's Canada, US, right, that are coming here. And I think in the last couple of years, I've noticed that there's more, younger people coming out here because they're seeing the kind of the end of a cycle for the States and the dollar and like currency in general, in my opinion, right? So a lot more people want to invest into hard assets, but there are risks, right? Just like with anything, you want to get high reward. There are risks and there's time. You either trade time or money.
Right.
And so, if you want to pay someone to help you out with things, right? Like with through a fund or what have you. But of course, there are risks. But I am completely 100% in agreement with you. Like I think that Mexico has a very bright future, and and I think that we will see a big change with the U.S. dollar, and I mean Canada is not far behind.
I think Canada will be the first kind of like Western currency to get slaughtered. When it like hits a certain breaking point, it's not going to be the US dollar. Like everyone's like, oh, the US dollar is collapsing next year. Not going to happen.
No.
This is going to be a slow drip. And people are still going to rush into dollars in the short term, which short term could be 10 years.
Oh, for sure.
Could be 15 years, could be 5
Maybe
years.
25.
We really
Don't know.
But for those of us plebes, you know, like this, like we're all small. We're small fish in
Of course.
an incredibly enormous pond. You know, what can we do is just like duplicate, you know, what the billionaires are doing and just doing it on a smaller scale. And if we can band together a little bit, and just like I'm saying, I got a couple $1 million in cash flowing producing assets, really, I could retire.
Right.
I don't need to buy any more land. I could just manage my investments and be comfortable, right? But I'm also an entrepreneur, so I can't stand that. And I see like this huge opportunity. I'm like, how do I get involved in that opportunity without kind of like messing up everything that I like? Because you said time. Time is an important thing. We could buy a bunch of land in Bucerias, and then all of a sudden something globally could happen, and we may have to wait 10 more years.
Absolutely.
Maybe 15 years. But we still have that hard asset, right? And eventually time catches up to price, right?
Of course.
And then, you know, that is, I think, the risk. I guess, you know, we could say aliens could land. There could be a nuclear war. I mean, at that point, then all bets are off anyway. So the biggest risk would be, you know, just a really bad global economic catastrophe that would take Mexico down with everyone else, and we would have to be part of that rebuilding process. But I think being in real estate is a great place to be.
I completely agree.
Especially debt-free.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, you can wait it out as long as you can. You can cash flow it. You can do all the things with it, right? And I think I completely agree with you in terms of, I don't know about all the other coastal places, but I do see the growing huge boom in like Tulum, right? And, and I agree. It's, to me, it really reminds me of what Vancouver was back in the day. And I mean, it was never cheap, right? But it just, well, whether the property got expensive or $1 just is worth a lot less these days. That's the real question. But the growth in prices and since 2002, 2003, because I moved to Vancouver in 2001, and I kind of got into real estate in 2005, 2006, and yeah, just I completely agree that I see Vallarta or the Bay exactly in the same kind of situation as Vancouver was back in the day.
I'm 100%, right? And we have a valley, which is, we have all this, like the valley, I mean, think of the Fraser Valley, right? Like look at it now compared to what it probably looked like 30 years ago. You're not going to recognize it, right?
For sure.
And I do get pushback from people like, well, how are like these Mexicans going to afford it? Because like everyone thinks Mexicans are poor, right? I know it's like quite the opposite. But like there's so much wealth being generated in the country, and real wealth. There's, with economic prosperity comes the desire from people from bigger cities and other cities to move. And where do they go? It's just like what happened in California, right? Like people moved, flocked to California for a better life, more tranquilo. Like you talk to anyone from Mexico City that's moved here and been here for many years, they're like, yeah, it's growing, and there's traffic and this, that, but it's like so tranquilo, man. It's like
they love it.
I would never move back to Mexico City. They love to go there, but they would never ever move there,
right?
Because why would they? You know, like fresh air.
Just the energy here. The people are here. It's, you know, the chill culture. I just love it. And I mean, Mexico City is it's a big city, right? So it's completely different. But here, I don't know, for me, it's just the beach energy, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody's chilling on Saturday, Sunday. Like, why wouldn't you want to live your life that way? Why would you want to hustle every single day? And at the beginning, when we first got here, it really bothered me that like nobody worked on Sunday. And then I was like, what are you talking about? Like, no, this is a good thing.
Right.
Yeah. So totally 100% agree. And, you know, some people give me pushback in terms of like, well, it's so hot in the summer. And well, it depends on what kind of angle you look at it from, right? Like if you're looking at it from cash flow and real estate, well, it depends on where you buy it, because in the summer there's a lot of Mexican nationals that travel here, and if you wish to rent at that time, you just need to know how to market it properly and to whom.
And they're looking for a whole house.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or larger units, right?
Yeah, larger
like
units,
beachfront or what have you. Yeah, for sure. So I think, I totally agree, and I think real estate and Mexico and real estate in Mexico have a very bright future, and that's why I talk about it all the time. I promote it all the time, and this is where I think when people face certain kind of things, issues, or what have you, the focus needs to be not on those issues, because everything is figure outable. You can fix anything, and just focus on the bigger picture. You don't buy real estate to sell it in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? The goal, in my opinion, should be to buy and hold forever. If, you believe in the future of the country.
As I'm older now, and I explain this to my kids though too, and they've got some cash I've been managing for them, and their little portfolios are growing, but it's they'll definitely put some cash into owning their own real estate. And had I, as a younger entrepreneur, just maxed myself out with debt. Actually, at one point I was in $35 million in debt, but but had I just done that with but that was on one project, right? So that was really scary. But I should have did that, but over 200 units or something, right? And that's what I should have did as a young person, and not built a thing. But I don't know. I'm a creative. I've enjoyed this journey, so for me, this has been kind of cool. But now I have this, I guess, more this expertise and this knowledge, and I'm ready to put down the hammer, not build
maybe
stuff.
For a year, and then you'll be back.
I don't want to build stuff anymore. As I said, we build it just we just build for good customers or for the fund.
Right.
We're just going to focus on that, because I think you're a creative and you're an entrepreneur, and you. Yes,
but I'm also very lazy.
So you and Jillian get along. Hey, Jillian's the most lazy person I know. She admits it. Lazy travelers. We're going to Europe this summer, and
nice.
We don't really go look at stuff. Maybe we'll go to a museum or two, but we just kind of hang out. Go sit on a park bench, drink a glass of wine, eat some cheese.
Yeah. That's all I do. I go out into this is why, I have so many ideas, and I want to do all these things. And the thing is, if I actually put my mind to what I want to do, I'll get it done. But through my life, I thought, should I open this business? No, that's too much work. And then I thought, well, what about this? Anyways, long story short, and then when I became a realtor, I thought, well, I love it. And I did enjoy it. But then I was like, I don't really love this. I'm type A, so I'll never let a message go unseen, for 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes. So it suited me. But then, when I thought, well, there is an easier way. I don't have to do all of this. I can figure out how to make a lot of money and provide a lot of value to people without having to, being on call at midnight.
Right.
And so that's what I'm kind of that's what I say by saying that I'm lazy. I will do my things that need to be done, but I'm kind of you know what? How much risk do I want to take? I want to do all these things. I want to build generational wealth for my kids.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when people ask me here all the time, well, why don't you sell real estate? I tell them, well, why?
Why would I want to?
Because everybody thinks that it's so simple, right? Everybody thinks it's simple to build homes, sell real estate. It's anything but. And, it's great because it gets us, I guess, to where we need to be to then move on to the next kind of thing, right? And, so.
Well, I'm going to switch gears here because I had other questions for you, and we kind of just kept talking about real estate, which makes a lot of sense. But tell us about so you moved here 4 years ago. The first year, what was the biggest challenge? Relocating, moving, making a commitment to live in Mexico. You're here. What was your challenge? What was the thing that was going to maybe send you back to Canada if you didn't resolve it?
There's nothing.
No.
Nothing was going to send me back to Canada.
Okay.
No, you know what? It was really, really weird. When we moved here, I thought I would miss Vancouver a lot.
Right.
I hadn't thought twice about it.
Okay.
The only thing that I miss is the hikes. It's really funny, but I lived in Russia, right? So till I was almost 20. I lived in Moscow, and I grew up in the 90s.
Right.
It was a crazy time.
Like, I can imagine Moscow in the 90s.
It was a crazy time. So, like, when people tell me, like, oh, Mexico's dangerous, I tell them, you haven't seen nothing. But Mexico is not dangerous. Puerto Vallarta is actually one of the safest places that I think there is. But anyways, so there were not a lot of challenges. The only thing that was like the most challenging for me was the heat in the summer, and that wasn't even the first year. So really, it was like the stars aligned, and we came here, and it was amazing. And I know it's probably not what
Right.
people are like. Well, it was this or it was that. For me, I busted my balls for like quite a few years before, so I came with an understanding that we're going to be buying real estate, and I'm going to be buying my time with cash flowing assets to then figure out my next adventure. Okay. And that's essentially what happened. So Spanish wasn't a problem for me because I don't care if I don't speak well. I just do it.
You just do it.
Just whatever.
That's what everyone should do. I love when we have customers sometimes come to BC Bucerias and they just speak in really bad Spanish. I'm like, at least you're freaking trying.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the only way to learn. That's how I learned the best. Like when I learned English, I learned super fast. I didn't have any other choice. Like I came to Vancouver and I went to work. Like we landed in February, I want to say, and I went to work in like March. And I didn't speak. Like I was working at Sears in the shoe department. Okay. And I don't know how I got hired. They just, no, not Sears, Eaton's. Yeah. They just opened up Eaton's. And they hired me like into a shoe department. I was being paid $11 an hour. I remember that like yesterday. And I was huge for 2001 or what, 2000, not 2001, 2000. And so we were like helping open everything up. So I had a little bit of practice there. There was a few weeks. And then they're like, go sell shoes. Yeah. Just go. So I went.
And how was your English at that time?
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah. Well, so I'm there, and the lady comes, and she's asking me for the shoes. She's pointing at the shoes. And I'm like, okay, well, she wants to see the shoes. So I somehow understood the size.
Were you nice Russian or bad Russian?
Very nice Russian. Very good. I didn't speak very much. I just listened and like soaked it all in. So I brought her shoes, and so she's trying them on, and then she's saying something to me, and I'm like, she's pointing at like somewhere. So I go up there and I grab whatever was there and I bring it. And she's like, well, no, Kleenex. I need Kleenex. How do I know what is a Kleenex? So finally, she's like super frustrated. She gets up, she walks over, she grabs the box. She goes, see, Kleenex. So that was the level of my English at the time.
You learned Kleenex pretty quickly there.
I learned Kleenex pretty quickly. Yeah. I spoke pretty well within like a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And then I went to become an interpreter. Okay. To interpret like for courts and stuff, and Russian to English, English to Russian. And my Russian instructor told me I need to work on my Russian.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Like, because your accent almost is non-existent. I mean, you can kind of hear it, like in your mannerisms. Because I think
if I drink wine, it comes out. Then the Russian comes out. The W's and the V's. Oh no, they don't go along very well.
My dad is married to someone from Poland, and so I'm Polish, Ukrainian. So like I think we're all kind of like brothers and sisters, right? Totally. But like it's something in our blood that kind of makes us who we are. Mm-hmm. Like my daughter is, and I'm not trying to be sexist, but she's an amazing pastry chef. My grandma, my mom's side was like the most amazing pastry chef. Wow. You know, like my daughter obviously got her DNA, but like my daughter's like good at everything anyways, and NJ's pretty good too, right? NJ's definitely, you both got a lot of creative for sure. Like NJ does all the video editing and he's really, really good at it. And even this last video we did on this horse ride I did with my daughter, like not a lot of people are interested in watching it, but it's like such a well shot video. Like I want more people to watch it because you did a really good job editing that. Anyways, I'm trying to remember where I'm going with this. What was I saying? Russian, something Ukrainian.
The struggles that I had when I came here.
Oh, okay.
And then we kind of went on to Spanish, English, and just like.
But I think there's something in our Eastern European culture that like we persevere, right? And I don't like. There's like some, even though I didn't see the atrocities or go through the shit that my grandparents had to go through, like to get here, and then people that stayed behind after they left, like my dad's wife, like she's like Polish, man. Like she she has seen it all, so she takes no bullshit.
Right.
And when she sees what's kind of going on in Canada, she's like, "This not good.
That
This
says it
not
all.
good."
That says it all.
Right?
Yeah.
She's like, "These people, they're corrupt. These people, they're corrupt." Is that a good Gabriella? Anyways.
That's a good Gabriel.
And, she just does, I don't know, like, we just take no bullshit, right?
Well, exactly, because why would you, right? Life's
Yeah.
short.
Yeah.
You got to kind of go and do, like, that's the thing, right? I've seen a lot of Eastern Europeans who came to Canada for better life.
Right.
Go right back.
They go back.
Or go somewhere else.
Right.
Because it's interesting. And the shift was kind of quick. But you know what I always thought of Canada? And that was from like day one. I kind of thought it was very like socialist.
Right.
Because everything you had to do, like, and you would know it firsthand, like for building and permits, and like you couldn't do anything without like getting 15 permits. And so starting a business, as hard as it is for most people to, commit to the fact that you may fail and have no money at all and then owe people money. And then also you have to go through like this whole layer of things that, the government stops you from actually opening up a business. So that for that reason, I always was more like, I've never lived in the States, but I thought that, Canada was very, like, from year 2000 that I lived there, I never felt like it was an opportune country. It was opportune in many other ways. Like for me personally, I think it was awesome that, I learned English, obviously, because that's like the language of, well, at the time, and still now, I think Spanish has kind of taken over in my opinion, but that was, all of the new, information that could help you grow and expand and what have you was in English, right? And then it would go into Russian or whatever. So for that reason, also for real estate, but the entrepreneurial gene was definitely like not in me from Canada.
Right.
So I think that I was very lucky to live in Canada and very grateful for everything, for the opportunities, because like in Russia, Moscow, Russia, my cousin lives there right now. I mean, she lived there her whole life. Their mortgages are, I'm probably going to butcher it a little bit.
Yeah.
To get a mortgage, you're going to pay about 20% interest
rate.
And that's actually good.
Yeah.
Like they're happy.
To have 20%.
To have 20%. To actually be able to get a mortgage.
This is what we have not seen. Like in my my generation. How old are you?
43.
Okay, so I'm 56, but I kind of came at the tail end of when where interest rates were high. So I've pretty well been living in a low real estate, low mortgage. Did I say real estate or did I say interest rates? Anyways, a low interest rate environment for years, all my life, basically. And people don't know the hardship of, and that's why like the Mexicans, like the interest rates here have always been high because they've had tight monetary policy.
Right.
So a lot of the liquidity we're going to see here is not fake. It's like pulling yourself up from your freaking bootstraps, and you have like real wealth that is now becoming liquid. Like that's not printed money. It's not fake. So
exactly.
I don't know. Like I think people that come from those situations can thrive in Canada and the States because it's almost like a freaking whoa! Like I won the lottery. Like,
totally.
2% mortgage. Woo!
If you do the right things with it, right? Like if you don't shop, which I did. I got a credit card the first year I was there, and I spent $5,000, and I was like, well, I'm never doing that again.
I think I did something very similar when I got my first credit card in college. They were like $500 limits. They just like handed them out like candy, and like I racked it up, but probably on stupid shit like cases of beer back then or something. So kids, my kids came at 12 and 13. So I think they had a little bit more, well, I don't even think, I know they had a little bit more of a struggle because they were already kind of switching from that innocent kid to like demon teenagers. And, you know, they had friends and, you know, they're starting to become more social animals, right? Like not so much completely dependent on parents, but your kids were how old when they came again?
3 and 5.
Right. So how has that been?
So good.
Yeah.
They speak 3 languages.
Yeah.
So they speak Russian, English, and Spanish.
That's wild. That's awesome.
English is kind of their primary. Spanish is very close, and I think a couple of years more it'll be primary.
Yeah.
So they love it, and we travel so much now. Like I'm so happy that I left real estate before they even knew what was
Right.
going on, right? So now, like, I'm always home. I work from home.
Right.
They like today I had to leave. It doesn't happen very often.
No.
They're like, where are you going? So we always spend time together. We travel together. I homeschool them. Like I don't teach them, but
Right.
we homeschool them. Yeah.
So do you have a teacher come in or they're online?
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a teacher come in and we have online classes. I think next year they kind of want to like socialize more. Like
Yeah.
they do some sports, but it's not enough. So next year we're probably gonna put them in school here in Bucerias.
Okay.
And yeah.
Which one?
It's actually a small school. Somebody from Coquitlam, like
Oh,
my
okay.
neighbor, I lived in Port Moody, and this lady lived in Coquitlam. She came around the same time, and she
Yeah.
started the school. Is called, what is it called? Let's plug them in. Something Sparrow.
Okay.
I can't really do a good plug, but it's they're in Flamingos.
Okay.
It's super small. I think they have like 2 groups. It's a school based on not like the schooling. So like they kind of pulled from a few different
Right.
curriculums, and they really focus on like being outside, being in nature,
Okay.
teaching them kind of life skills, that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
that's yeah.
Yeah, and like my kids went to a private school in Canada that was like multiple grades in one room, and they were a little bit more. Well, they could have different learning styles, right? So
That's cool.
So then when they shifted here, I think it was like. So number one, they had the Spanish, and then a different culture,
One other
and then a different way of
age.
learning, right? So we kind of like set them up for a little bit of failure, but then in the end, we pulled them out and then put them online. So we found an online school in Canada,
Okay.
and they were able to complete their education there, and it didn't cost us anything. It was a charter school. All we had to be in Canada on September 30th every year,
Okay.
and we didn't have to pay as a foreign
Oh,
family.
well, that's good
So
to know.
it worked out. You guys turned out okay. Huh? Yeah, we're doing okay.
So you've got 2 kids, right?
Yeah, so-
NJ,
Yeah, and Adelaide.
and I've seen her in the videos
Yeah,
riding.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Tell
So
me.
you ride too.
I do ride.
Yeah.
Yes, I ride here in Equestrian and Bucerias.
Okay.
I haven't ride. I stopped in June because we left,
Yeah.
and then I fell off my bike.
Okay.
I was supposed to go back, and now my wrist hurts.
I fell off my horse the other day.
So there we go. And it's the same arm. So yeah, I'm gonna be back in January. And so you tell me about, actually, I watched the video that you shared with me. It's really cool. So what, you're going to do some experiences with horse riding?
Yeah, so Addie is started a little business, and this is a plug for Bucerias Saddle Adventures with Adelaide May Goralski. If you book a tour with Adelaide, you get $25 off by quoting the code Bucerias Joel. How was that? That's my radio voice.
I like it.
Okay. So we got 4 horses. So we invested in 4 horses. We have them right now at a little ranch just outside of Bucerias, but a 5-minute drive. Just past Arroyos Verdes,
Okay.
just before the bridge. So the new overpass. Have you gone out that way lately?
I have not, but I know before I left, there was a lot of work going
Yeah.
on.
So
there.
like there's like a new overpass that goes over the new highway. So this property is just before that. It's great. Like the horses. They get to graze every day. They get to run around and be horses, and then they get stabled at night. So,
Okay.
we took them from a situation where they were tied to a tree or a post or not living the best life of a horse.
Right.
So now they're living a pretty good life. But we're moving them to a property just behind Mega, and this is one of the properties I'm investing in. So I'm trying to put a deal together to buy into this land as the first investor, and then we're going to move the horses there. So he's cleared a bunch of land for me. I put my RV there. I'm going to do a bunch of planting, and we're going to build some corrals for the horses. And that's where she's going to do her tours at it. So from that property, she'll do the arroyo, so the up the dry riverbed. And then we know some kind of trails that no one knows about. So we kind of cut through this Ejido land, and it's all single track. It's through a jungle. It's
So cool.
so beautiful. I did that ride twice so far, and I would do it every week.
Right.
It's that nice.
It's not one day ride though, is it?
It's 2.5, 3 hours depending
Oh, so it's
on
not-
the skill
okay.
level and how. If
Right.
you're just walking, no loping, no nothing, maybe just a little under 3 hours. If you're doing some loping, some trotting, maybe 2.5 hours.
That sounds very cool. I think that's a great idea. When I saw that video, I thought, wow, that's amazing. Good.
Did you see the one we did the multi-day, or
No,
I sent you the most recent one?
Yeah, you sent me the one where you take the horses to the rancho.
Okay. Yeah. And then we did this beautiful trip with a group of Mexican pilgrims that were going from Lo de Marco all the way to Talpa de Allende. And Adelaide and I started in Bucerias, and we met them in Valle de Manderas, and then from there we spent the night, and then we did 4 nights with them, and we went all the way from Bucerias to Talpa in 4 days.
Wow.
Like 125 kilometers. We did trailer the horses 2 of the days, just the last little bit of distance, last couple hours, just because my mule was done, her horse was done, and I was done. But it was still 8-hour day. Like,
wow,
but
that's
that was
quite the trip.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It was like one of the coolest things I've ever done. So I think I'll personally help put on a ride. Well, tagging along with these guys next year, but we'll support it. So people from Canada, the States can come. We'll have their horses, but we'll like have their tent set up, and they can kind of join the group, but we'll have it a little more elevated from a service standpoint.
Right.
Yeah, it was a little rustic.
Well, hey, that's why you do it,
But
right?
it was pretty cool. Like, we're leaving at 2 a.m, literally one day, and these guys are playing their band the music on their little speaker, and it was just so surreal, right?
That sounds interesting. That sounds very cool.
So you've been riding all your life?
I did in Moscow. I had a choice whether go to school or get professional, and I went to school.
Okay.
Should have gotten, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I stopped in Canada because I worked so much.
Yeah.
And then when I got back here, I decided that I'll go back. And I love it. The only difference is that when I was 14 years old or 13, whenever I started, it was like, no problem. Now it's like, oh my God, 5 minutes, kill
Right.
me right now.
Right. And there's a little more fear, right? Like of getting injured.
You know what? The fear is never, I
No,
fell
okay.
a few times, and I'm never too worried about that. For me, it's just like, I don't know. I spin. So for like working out, spinning is my favorite
Okay.
thing, and I do it on my own. So I actually used to be a spin instructor
Did you?
back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yes. So the problem for me is that like I'm not in control.
Okay.
So the instructor's in control, so I can't stop whenever I want to
Right.
stop. And we have some hard ass instructors.
Right.
And so I think that's just more of a mental kind of a hurdle that I need to overcome.
And are your kids into?
They started,
Okay.
and then I forget why we couldn't get them in the group, but we're going to go back in January. All of us are going back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to come see that facility. We should do a video there one day, because I follow a bunch of people that ride there often. And I mean, so you're jumping.
Jumping, yeah.
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 I don't know if I want to jump. I like just kind of doing what I do. But I mean, it's kind of like funny. Like Adelaide and I were like ripping down the Arroyo, and I put it on Strava, like the bike app, so I could see how fast we got. And I got up to like 47 kilometers an hour on my horse.
Wow.
We were flying, and yeah, no problem. Like I don't have any fear of
Yeah.
that. But then on the way back, I just wasn't paying attention, and I was like looking around, daydreaming. I was thinking about a beer actually, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna stop at the store and I'm gonna have a cold beer, like because it was on the way to the ranch. And then something spooked the horse, and she just like went sideways so fast, and I just fell off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh fuck! I thought I broke my clavicle because that's what it felt like. But I went for X-rays and I'm fine. I just like bruised and tore a bunch of ligaments because I hit the deck hard. Like it felt like an old bike race crash. Anyways, so it was kind of like foolish because
Because it was just, beer in your
Nothing-
mind and nothing really
like
happened.
literally I shouldn't have fallen off. But had I been paying attention, I would never fallen off the horse. Just moments earlier, I'm like ripping down the Arroyo. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
but that's kind of how.
It happens. Maybe you just need a break a little. Like, you need to take a break from horseback riding.
Well, I believe everything happens for a reason. So maybe that was like a wake-up call that maybe I'll be a little more conscious in a time that will matter, right?
There we go. That was deep.
Yeah, very deep, ain't you? I take all these lessons in life. I believe God has a plan for us, and God is to me the best of planners, and sometimes His plan is not necessarily what you want to see, but it's happening for a reason, and you just got to accept that.
Right.
I just put my trust in God, and in the end, I don't really worry about too much. Like we worry about our day to day, or sometimes can feel like woe's me, but in the end, if I sit and think about it, pray on it, what do I have to really what do I have to complain about?
Right.
At this point.
And it's perspectives too, right?
Like I have a nice house, I have a beautiful family, I'm talking to a wonderful person, and I got lots of good human beings in my life, right? So
absolutely.
that's all I got to worry about.
that's right. 100%.
How are we for time? Wow, that's great. I think you're gonna hold the record for the
the longest
longest podcast. That's great. No, this has been a super fun discussion. I think I had one more thing that so I should have put some notes down. Hey, Andre. He says, "You got any notes, Dad?" Okay, but 4 years later, okay, and you've met and seen lots of different people, especially doing the real estate videos. Like, what is the one thing that chews and spits people out and sends them back home to where they came from? Like the failures. Have you met any? Who basically been here for years, but then they're like, I'm going, I'm out. Mexico's not for me.
I am super antisocial.
Right. Okay.
So I go out and do videos and I meet people and I love it. Yeah. But I don't really have a ton of friends. Like I have friends that, I've met years ago and they're been friends forever and there's only 2 of them. So, right. But in general, from the people that I've met and what I hear, because my kids have friends and some families leave, it's just the lack of being able to adapt to the culture, or it's usually both, adapting to the culture, and the second one would be the job. Right. Like people are struggling figuring out what they're going to do.
What they're going to do. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of lucky because you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you've created yourself a business here. And your husband?
Yes, my husband has a business as well.
Okay, in Mexico or?
No, it's international.
Okay.
So he works with apps and that kind of stuff, digital things. So he could be anywhere. And I have created, so when I first got here, I thought I would just do cash flowing assets, right. Buy our own, and then maybe I'd manage some. And then I quickly decided I'm not going to manage anything. Right. I am not going to do that. So it's
property manager, rental manager.
Yeah. Or arbitrage kind of thing, right? That was another idea I had when I was doing the videos. I thought, okay, well, I can help people find a property and then maybe help out with arbitraging it, or I would manage it for them. And I decided that's not what I want to do. I want to be location independent. While this is home, I want to travel because I never had a chance really to do that for many years. And now I just in the summer, that's all I want to do, just go out and travel. And I also don't really think that, I don't know, I see so much future in digital marketing. I really enjoy that kind of stuff. And I love coaching as well. So between all of those kind of things, I forgot where I was going with this.
Well, I said, did you meet anyone or know of any people where they got chewed up and spit out? And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. They don't adapt, right? And they don't roll with the punches. I guess that's a way of adapting. Is you got to roll with the punches in Mexico, and you said it. I think in your video that you did, you got to lower your expectations here, dramatically. Because I saw it happen with a family. Husband and wife, they bought something beside us, and I'm not going to name them, but they're long gone. And the house was beautiful, but then they're ripping out tile, and the guy was couldn't handle it, something wasn't square. And I'm like, dude, you got to just let that go. And a year later, they're having trades because the builder's you guys are fucking nuts. I'm out of here. And this wasn't me. I wasn't the builder. And it's not even this builder I'm not really necessarily even a big fan of either. But I know what he was going through, and I think he fired them as clients, and then they hired someone else to finish it, and then they still weren't this is Mexico, right? Do guys bought that property for such a great price, and it's in a really good location, and the crazy thing is they sold it just before prices took off, but they literally, and then they went back. I don't even. They may even got divorced. They were. This property purchase, which was to probably be their dream, ruined them, right? But then they probably blamed everyone else but themselves, right? So I think when people come here, and it doesn't matter about, and this isn't just cuatro estaciones, that's just a blip on the map. You're coming here, whether you're starting a business or buying a house or renting or something, you got to temper your expectations to nothing. And then everything that goes your way, you got to say, man, that's a win, and I'm so happy to, thank God every day we're living here. I'm you know what, at the end of the day, look at where I live. When shit's not going our way, we're we go sit up on our balcony and we look at the view and we're look at where we live. This sunset, this sunrise, like, man.
And look at our healthy family and what we have and just be grateful. And I think when you move anywhere in the world, whether it's Mexico or what have you, your whole world changes, right? Whether it's for the better or for the worst. And sometimes even if it's for the better, you don't see it right away maybe, right? So I think just finding things to be grateful for and really focusing on the reasons why did you make the move and holding the picture. Because, things are not instant, like you're not going to get instant results. And also learning from the experience, right? Like I think, and this is now like my idea, I want to move to Portugal, I want to learn Portuguese, I want to learn the culture.
So you are thinking about that?
I wouldn't live in Portugal,
but maybe part of the summer?
But maybe part of the summer, yeah. Or like just travel around to like soak up as much culture as possible, because I think in all of those, crooked tiles or like the experience of renovating a house, this is why I'm like really struggling with the idea, but I'm going to do it, I think, building a house, because I know there's going to be so many challenges, but like that's going to grow and expand you. And I think if you're able to see that, you're going to thrive. And if you're not, you're going to go back to what you had, right?
You're going to drive yourself nuts.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll set you up with a contractor, Baldo. That would
Baldo.
Be,
I like the name already.
You have to use Baldo. And here's what I'll say is like, I've never had a contractor here that's perfect. Right. But him... they really care about their work, and if something goes wrong, he shows up.
Right.
So they always take care of business, and he's been in our life now for like almost 17 years. It's like trust, right? Like trust is more important than anything. So I would put you in touch with Baldo, because that's the hardest thing. Is like you meet someone and sometimes it looks good on paper, or like the first meeting, oh yeah, like Sergio's like really good, like this is gonna be like so awesome, and then Sergio just like disappears like 2 weeks later and you can't get hold of him. Like
right.
I'm like generalizing here, and I'm not.
Oh, but
I'm not targeting any Sergios here. Okay.
Well, I could talk about a Sergio who did that to us with $14,000.
Oh, yeah, really? Okay. Well, there we go, Sergio. I was talking about you. That's Sergio. But yeah, when you're ready, you can just reach out, and I'll put you in touch with some people who can help with permitting.
Thank you.
People who can help with the architecture if you need that, just to make things go a little bit more smooth.
Right. Thank you. I'd really appreciate it, because I know how things can go.
Yeah, you want good people on your team that handle the things that are going to go wrong, which they will.
Of course.
Yeah, I hear like we're looking forward to the summer, because I mean we enjoy the summers here because we feel like Bucerias has been given back to us in a way.
Because it's empty, right?
It's empty, but we're looking forward to doing some traveling, and I keep coming back to Italy because I used to speak Italian, and it's in my head, and I can read it pretty well. I can pronounce it really well, but because I've been living here and I don't ever use it, sometimes with Vincenzo, from Toscana Mia, but my Italian's really bad now, so I just speak Spanish to him. But I would love to get that language back, and then being close to France, to be able to like get over there and like get my French back, and like you're saying, like just expand my cultural horizons a little bit more with other places that I really loved, which we love France, we love Italy. Spain, yeah, it's okay, but I kind of like prefer Italy and France, you know, over the countries. So my idea is I'm gonna try to find an apartment for under 50,000 euros. That's my goal. Okay. And there's lots, which is pretty crazy.
In Italy, right?
In Italy.
Yeah, there's some really good real estate.
Some really good deals.
There.
And then maybe I would go to 100 if it was the right, but nothing over 100,000 euro. But it's amazing what you can actually find there. But something we don't feel we have to rent, or like we can just lock it up when we're not there, and family and friends can use it. But I don't want like an investment there. I just want something for my lifestyle. It's an investment. Yeah. Obviously it's an investment, but it doesn't need to make me any money. It can just sit there.
Right. Would you vlog about it?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll have to vlog about this trip because we'll have to keep content going. But YouTube doesn't necessarily like that when we leave our little niche here. So it's like hard, right? But I don't know, I'll have to figure out some kind of angle on that one.
TikTok. I'm getting into TikTok.
I've tried TikTok.
And
I failed. Like I just didn't keep it up.
Do you have to stay like super like every day?
I think so, and like you got to create like really catchy short pieces that your market is interested in, and then you got to grow that fan base. I mean, I think I'm just like lazy.
Right.
You know, like having NJ do the videos and do the editing is great because I do not have the patience nor if ChatGPT could do it for me.
Problem solved.
I'm writing a book because I've always wanted to write this book, so that's what I'm gonna do next year. But I've already started, and ChatGPT has been helping me, right? So help me create an outline, and then I'll wake up at like 1 a.m. and I'll like, oh yeah, that would be like a freaking amazing plot twist here, like. You give it to ChatGPT and he's like, oh, and then ChatGPT knows how to encourage you. It's like, wow, that's an amazing layer that you're adding to this already like incredible story. Like, anyways, then it kind of like flushes some stuff out. So
is it a fiction book or is
it's fiction, but it is tying in. It's kind of where we're going at as a society with like algorithms and big companies that basically control and
very cool. Our destiny. You'll be the next John Orwell.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's. I'm not going to give away the name, but it's got some fictitious characters. One from Poland, but then grew up
from Poland.
Poland and grew up in Russia in Moscow. His dad was like a double agent.
Wow.
Anyways, yeah, there's some
that's super
some
cool.
Crazy shit going on there.
That's very cool.
Chat thinks I should make it into a series though. Like so it's already kind of outlined the series for me. She's like, no, you got to make a series. You got to do like the shadow conspiracy or whatever it is, and then this one, and then that one, and then you have a prequel that you come back to over here. And I'm like, oh my god, I'll be doing this for 10 years. But I'm a creative, so I need to do something. And if I'm not building homes or starting businesses, I'm gonna have to paint because I used to paint, or I'll have to like write a book. I'll have to like do something to just stimulate
the energy.
So I don't know, like, are you kind of the same way? Or
yeah. I say I'm not gonna do anything, and then it's like, okay, well, what's the next idea?
And then you freaking start something, and then you're like, fuck, 4 years later, I'm still doing this. But
right.
My wife was gonna kill me. Like, she'll be like, no, she goes, I don't want to do anything. No more businesses. No more nothing. Like, she's agreed to still continue the rental. She does property booking management, not rental management, but she does the bookings
of your properties in Bucerias
and other
right?
people's.
Okay.
And it's a pretty good business because we've had it for so many years. So she makes pretty good. Like, she earns a living doing it, right? So she's like, it's pretty easy to like maintain. And then we have people like Baldo and other people in our life that do all the heavy lifting. Mm-hmm. So we'll probably keep that for the interim. But we're trying to like get rid of stuff. So sold BC Bucerias. Get rid of Quattro, get rid of this stuff, and then.
So anything that's kind of tying you down and can't be done, like if you're traveling, that's.
That's like what your idea, like even on the land investment fund, I don't have to be here.
Right.
Like it's spreadsheet shit, and it's like so long term planning. I could be away for 3 months, and Rome ain't gonna burn. Like, matter of fact, I'll probably get stimulated during that 3 months and come back with some ideas on, man, I never really thought about this for the land, and I know I can do this. And then, but because the land investment and just passive investments like cash flow, they just sit there.
Right.
Like the pharmacy's paying us rent every month. That just comes into our account. What do I got to do?
Exactly.
Nothing.
Exactly.
That's kind of boring though. So that's why I got to like.
Well, you set it all up, and then you go and do something.
I know. That's why I got to paint or.
So I got to paint
or write a book.
There we go. Or series.
Well, I think I'm gonna call it here because I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I'd like to have you back.
I'd love to come back. Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll talk. I have some ideas. I'll share my ideas with you now that I know you haven't canceled me for sure. Like, I have some idea. I've been thinking about it for a while because like I watch your videos and I love like your vibe and what you're doing, and I'm like, can I have some ideas? And maybe we can somehow include you in our channel. I have some ideas, but like then we'd have to sit here for another hour and a half and talk about it. But we'll talk about it offline, and we'll see where it goes.
Sounds great.
What do you think?
It was amazing. I'm in 100%. That has been great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. You gotta hit that outro. That's okay if you can't. I think it's like that third button, yeah. Oh yeah, there we go. This is like fade to black music, right?